Good morning students, welcome you back to the lecture video session on delegation of authority. In the previous video, we have discussed about the authority, responsibility and the delegation. So we were discussing about the superior subordinate relationship with respect to the delegation of authority. We understood that it involves steps which could be discussed in this present video. So the first step of the superior subordinate relationship is that assignment of the duties. Every member is not going to have the same amount of same kind of IQ or same kind of work experience. Depending on the result oriented task, depending on one's capability, the superior should be able to assign the task, and they will be assigning the task depending on the task seriousness. So creating the authority is the second step that is given to the superior. So the subordinates superior will be able to understand the IQ or the experience of a person who is as a team member, and subdivision of the authority takes place when the superior shares all the relevant information about the task and where to begin and where exactly the phase 1 or the phase 2 or the completion status is, and what are the deadlines that are given to the respective responsibilities, and the entire task is divided into the parts, and then the responsibilities are given to the people who are in the team. So the subdivision of powers is also given to the respected team members, and then there's a certain amount of authority will also be given to the team members who are going to perform the task. The subdivision of powers is very important to get the effective result. One person who is going to do a design may require some amount of power in order to discuss with the product department, in order to discuss with the marketing department. That amount of power should be delegated to the person so that they will be able to come to a conclusion about the design of the product, what the design department is going to give, and whether it is good to pitch with that right design or whether the consumers are going to respond to that particular one with respect to the market survey has to be has to be brought into the consideration. So every manager has to understand that certain amount of authority and the power to be given to the people who they are going to give the responsibilities. So the next level is that next step is to create the responsibility and accountability. Once the responsibility is given to a person who is a team member, responsibility is very important, and that person cannot shift it to other person. And the responsibilities are very important and it cannot be shifted, and the accountability should be taken by the person that to whom it is given. So the accountability arises out of the responsibility, and the responsibility comes out of the authority. So once the responsibility is given, authority is also given to the person, and once the responsibility is given, authority is given, the person will be made accountable to the pros and cons of the work that are carried out by the team and then the person. And this kind of responsibility cannot be delegated to anybody. Therefore, it becomes very important for every authoritative position, and that has to be made equal, and opposite responsibility equal and opposite responsibility should be attached. So the responsibility should be attached to the right person at the right time, and ensure that the superior has to ensure that there will be right amount of responsibility when it is given. The certain amount of authority should also be given to the person. So after knowing about the delegation of the authority, let's understand the line, staff and functional authority. When we see this, functional authority is the highest one. Concurring authority comes in the mid. The lowest level is the voluntary consultation, and then the compulsory consultation. There are three types of authority in any of the organizations. They are line, staff and functional authority. What is line authority? Line authority is where a superior exercises the direct command over a subordinate. If you take the example of the small shops, small grocery shops, there will be only one person who will be giving the command to the person who is working on the counter. So it is the direct line authority. Nature of staff authority. There will be minimum number of staff, and where there will be a person who is going to give the command to the staff, and it is merely a advisory one. So if at all, see, there are two departments which are very important in an organization. One is the market researcher who is going to do the survey, and he gathers, or the person who is the market researcher person gathers the relevant information from the market about The market researcher gathers the data that is collected from the market, and he analyzes the data from the market. He would be in a position to advise the marketing manager about the trends in the market and the new demand that is coming on for the new products, new expectations that are expected by the that are expressed by the consumers. And once this market researcher analyzes the data and gives it to the marketing manager, that is called as staff authority. And when we think about this kind of authority that is given to the function and the staff, and then the functional authority is nothing but the highest authority, which is going to include all these voluntary consultation, compulsory consultation, and the concurring authority. So the final one is the functional authority, who is going to see the line and the staff, and put together they are going to function as a functional authority. Here the marketing manager can be called as a functional authority. What are the advantages of effective delegation? So when we discuss about the delegation, we understood that responsibilities cannot be delegated, but the responsibilities can be held, and one person is going to be accountable for the responsibilities that is given by the authority. So what are the advantages of effective delegation is that in a team, if there are 5 members, all the 5 members will be able to have certain amount of authority, which gives them the sense of responsibility. So it relieves the manager from the heavy workload, who will be able to think, who will be able to look into the other workloads, and who will be able to expand the working of the team in a better way, so that there will be better decisions, and it speeds up the decision making, because there are people who are involved at different levels of work. And it helps to train the subordinates, and it builds the sense of responsibility and the morale and the involvement and the belongingness into the functions of the organization. It also helps the formal organization structure, wherein everybody will be taken a kind of responsibility towards the growth of the organization. So these are the advantages of effective delegation. Barriers to effective delegation are: there will be fear of loss of power, because if all are trained, one person may feel that the other person is superior, and they may feel that there will be the loss of power, or even the manager may feel that all the powers are not concentrated with himself or herself, and the loss of power may be the feeling of the manager. So other person may feel that I can do it better than the other self, but it can also give I can do it better myself, rather than delegating the work to somebody else who is going to spoil the work, because one may feel that other person may not equate the kind of competitiveness that I have. So the lack of confidence in the subordinates would occur, and there will be a fear that the other person's inabilities are going to get exposed, and that they may want the person to safeguard the other person's from the actions that are taken by the top management. So there will be difficulty in briefing the person's accountability, because the person may be inferior in working and execution of the work. So the inability to establish and then the experience the proper controls on the team. So this would be a side effect of the effective delegation. So the manager may be prevented to give any kind of authority to the teammates if at all the teammates are not up to the mark, or if the manager feels the loss of the power, or if at all they are not confident about the subordinates. So this is the distinction between the decentralization and the delegation. Delegation is a process. Decentralization is the end result of the delegation. In the delegation, superior continues to be responsible for other person's work also, even though the work is delegated to them. In the decentralization process, superior will not be held responsible for the other person's work. Delegation, when the delegation is done, delegation is vital, and it is very, very important in order to make the entire team to work. Decentralization it is going to be optional. So this is about the distinction between the delegation and the decentralization. In the next video, we will look for the span of control and the rest of the topics, which are very, very important. Thank you everyone. See you all in the next video. Thank you.